Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Our viewers, Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So we'll read from Chaitanya Charitamrita. I think Radhini Mataji, if you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Yeah. Yes, Prabhu, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya, Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra, Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna everybody. We're reading from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila chapter 6 text 259. One day Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and after offering obeisances began to recite a verse. Text 260. He began to quote one of Lord Brahma's prayers from Srimad Bhagavatam, but he changed 2 syllables at the end of the verse. Text 261. The Bhattacharya recited, "One who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words, and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee." Text 262. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu immediately pointed out, in that verse, the word is Mukti Pade, but you have changed it to Bhakti Pade. What is your intention? Text 263. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, the awakening of pure love of Godhead, which is the result of devotional service, far surpasses liberation from material bondage. For those averse to devotional service, merging into the Brahman effulgence is a kind of punishment. Text 264 and 265. The Bhattacharya continued, the impersonalists who do not accept the transcendental form of Lord Shri Krishna and the demons who are always engaged in blaspheming and fighting with him are punished by being merged into the Brahman effulgence. But that does not happen to the person engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Text 266. There are 5 kinds of liberation: Salokya, Samipya, Swarupa, Sarsti, and Sayuja. Text 267. If there is a chance to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, a pure devotee sometimes accepts Salokya, Swarupa, Samipya, and Sarsti, forms of liberation, but never Sayuja. Text 268. A pure devotee does not like even to hear about Sayuja Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, the pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Text 269. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya continued, there are 2 kinds of Sayuja Muktis, merging into the Brahman effulgence and merging into the personal body of the Lord. Merging into the Lord's body is even more abominable than merging into his effulgence. Text 270. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya concluded, even though he is offered all kinds of liberation, the pure devotee does not accept them. He is fully satisfied engaging in the service of the Lord. Text 271. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, the word Mukti Pade has another meaning. Mukti Pada directly refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 272. All kinds of liberation exist under the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, he is known as Mukti Pada. According to another meaning, Mukti is in the ninth subject, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the shelter of liberation. Text 273. Since I can understand Krishna according to these two meanings, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what point is there in changing the verse? Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya replied, I was not able to give that reading to the verse. Text 274. Although your explanation is correct, it should not be used because there is ambiguity in the word Muktipada. Text 275. The word mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation, but its direct meaning usually conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. Text 276. The very sound of the word mukti immediately induces hate and fear. But when we say the word bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind. Text 277. Upon hearing this explanation, the Lord began to laugh, and with great pleasure immediately embraced Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya very firmly. Text 278. Indeed, that very person who had been accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavad philosophy was now even hating the word mukti. This was possible only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Text 279. As long as it does not turn iron into gold by its touch, no one can recognize an unknown stone to be a touchstone. Text 280. Upon seeing transcendental Vaishnavism in Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, everyone could understand that Lord Chaitanya was none other than Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj. Text 281. After this incident, all the inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, headed by Kashi Mishra, came to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Text 282. Later I shall describe how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya always engaged in the service of the Lord. Text 283. I shall also describe in full detail how Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya perfectly rendered service to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by offering him alms. Text 284 and 285. If one hears with faith and love these pastimes concerning Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meeting with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he very soon is freed from the net of speculation and fruitative activity and attains the shelter of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet. Text 286. Praying at the lotus feet of Sri Rupa and Sri Raghunatha, always desiring your mercy, I, Krishna Dasa, narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madhya. Hare Krishna. So we'll briefly discuss the context and go through each of the verses. So the overall context was that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave his mercy for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya so that he could become a devotee. Otherwise, he was Mayavadi. He was giving instruction to several Mayavadi sannyasis like that, though he was the greatest scholar in the whole world at that time. So the context, just before this verse for today, what happened was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recognized Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, gave his mercy, he gave his darshan of 400 Vishnu form and then 200 Krishna form, like that. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was worshipping him, meaning by chanting his holy name, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's holy name, and serving him all the time like that. That is the context we've been hearing now. So now we'll go to, then an interesting dialogue comes. This is very important because this section gives us the understanding of what is the devotee's mood towards devotion service and disposition towards Krishna and disposition towards liberation or mukti also. This whole section describes that very nicely. So going to 259 verse for today. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya one time came and offered obeisances to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he recited one verse, it seems. What verse is that? That verse is quoting from Brahma's prayers, Lord Brahma's prayers in Srimad Bhagavatam. But while quoting the verse, he changed 2 syllables at the end of the verse itself. So the verse itself is like this. I'll go to the verse. Tatenu kampam susamikshamano Unjana evatma krutam vipakam Tadvagvapurbhir vidadan namaste Jivetayo Bhakti Pade Sadaya Dayabak. So this two words, Bhakti Pade, in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th canto, 14th chapter, 8th verse, Lord Brahma offers this prayer after the stealing of calves and cowherd boys, that pastime. But in the Brahma's original prayer in Srimad Bhagavatam, it says Mukti Pade, not Bhakti, Mukti Pade. 1 second. So in the original Srimad Bhagavatam verse, it is Mukti Pade, whereas Sarvam Bhattacharya changes it to Bhakti Pade. So there's a whole section of verses that talk about this, focus on these two words now. That's why I showed you verse also. Basically, the meaning of the verse is one who seeks your compassion. That means one who's waiting for Lord Krishna's compassion or mercy. And while waiting for the mercy, tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions in life, understanding that they are only coming because of my own past misdeeds like that. But then he continues to engage in devotion service with his mind, words, and body, and always offers obeisances to the Lord. He is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. Bona fide candidate means is a the verse it says Dayabak means somebody like a hereditary. That means just by living, a son gets the property of the father like that. Like that, somebody can become a authorized recipient of Krishna's mercy, like that is described. Now, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not initially, he did not approve that he changed the word from Srimad Bhagavatam like that. So what does he say? He immediately pointed out, in that verse, the word is Mukti Pade, but you change it to Bhakti Pade. What is your intention? Like that he asked. So, now Sarvabhadracharya replied, okay, interesting explanation. He says, the awakening of pure love of Godhead, Krishna Prema, which is the result of devotion service, far surpasses liberation from material bondage. For those averse to devotion service, merging into Brahman effulgence is a kind of punishment. If somebody doesn't want to do devotion service, merging into Brahman effulgence is like a punishment, is referring to. And he says, first of all, first portion is saying that bhakti is topmost, is far better than liberation. Second thing he's saying is this liberation in terms of merging into the effulgence of the Lord, Brahma is actually a punishment, like that is saying. Now he continues, he says, the impersonalist means who do not accept the personal form of the Lord, transcendental form of the Lord Krishna. That is one category. Second category is demons who are always blaspheming and fighting with the Lord. These two categories of people are punished by being merged into the Brahman effulgence, is saying. But if somebody engages in devotion service, that doesn't happen. That punishment doesn't happen like that. But Sarvabhauma is referring to here. So, if somebody lives in the Brahman effulgence, they don't have opportunity to render any service to the Lord. That is the drawback of this one. That is one drawback of this one. We'll see here. And is describing, yeah. Now, is describing there are 5 kinds of liberation. We commonly hear of them. Now, this is the actual source where we devotees quote from. Salokya means living on the same planet as Supreme Lord. Samipya means living close to Supreme Lord as an associate of the Supreme Lord. Sarupya means having the same form like the Supreme Lord, like 400 form in Vaikuntha, like that. Sarishti means having the same opulence like the Supreme Lord. And Sayuja means merging into the Brahma effulgence of Supreme Lord. We'll hear another explanation coming up, but that is the initial explanation given in this purport. Now, he says, if there's a chance to serve the Supreme Lord, if there's a seva opportunity, a pure devotee sometimes can accept the first 4 kinds of liberation, Salukya, Sarupya, Samipya, and Sarishti, but he never accepts Sayuja form. First of all, pure devotee doesn't want even these liberations. But if there's an opportunity to serve, you can take it. But you'll never take this one. Why? Because there's no opportunity to serve in the Brahma Jyoti. That is the point being made here. Now going to the next verse. A pure devotee does not even like to hear about Sahajya Mukti, the last kind of Mukti, which inspires him with fear and hatred. Indeed, the pure devotee would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord. Why is that? Because the understanding is, if you're maintaining your individuality, even if you go to hell, you can figure out an opportunity to serve Lord. But if you're living in Brahma Jyoti like a small tiny spark, like how in the sunlight, spark of sunlight is there, like that, there's no opportunity to serve also, like directly in Supreme Lord. That's why they would rather go to hell than merge into the effulgence of the Lord, is describing. Now, yeah, purport says this merging is due to an offense conducted against the bhakti, transcendental service of the Lord. That's why it's not desirable by pure devotees, saying. Now, 269 verse, this has a bigger purport. Basically, Sarvabhattacharya is describing. Remember, so far he described out of the 5 kinds of liberation, last one, Sahajya Mukti, is not desired by devotees. They even don't want it. They can even go to hell like that. Now he's describing that last Sahajya Mukti is of 2 kinds. One is merging into Brahma Jyoti. That's what we talked about so far. Second kind is merging into personal body of the Lord also. That option also is there, it seems. And merging into the Lord, this second option, merging into the Lord's body, is even more abominable than merging in Brahman effulgence, is saying. Why is that? The purport is clarifying for us that this primary point is that there is no opportunity to serve. Devotee always wants to serve the Supreme Lord. There is no opportunity to serve the Supreme Lord. So in both the situations, whether merging into Brahma Jyoti or merging into the body of the Lord, personal body of the Lord, there is no service opportunity. But why the second thing is even more abominable? Because in the first case, they may not have developed attraction for the personal form of the Lord. They may not have not even known that the body, Supreme Lord, as a personal form. But in the second kind of liberation, they understand the Supreme Lord as a personal form. But even after understanding, instead of serving the Supreme Lord, they are choosing to go into the body of the Supreme Lord. That is why it's even more abominable. That means knowingly making mistakes is even worse than not knowing and making mistake. We hear that commonly. That's the point being made here. So another interesting thing in this verse is this actually comes up in Adi Lila also. Is repeated. The point is repeated here that normally we consider the 14 planetary systems in the material world, material universe. Bhuloka, Bhuvarloka, Swargaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, Swargaloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, Maharloka, and then finally Brahmaloka also. We normally hear that way. But here, the Brahman effulgence itself is also called as Siddhaloka or Brahmaloka also, that one. That's the interesting thing that is coming out in this verse. Is elaborated in the purport also like that. So the 2 kinds of Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is in the 14 planetary systems, and then Brahma effulgence also is called Brahmaloka or Siddhaloka. Actually, Adilila, it becomes confusing, but Prabhupada writes a nice purport to clarify for us that Siddhaloka there refers to the Brahma Jyoti like that. So that's the point made here. And another point made here is because those who are merging into the effulgence of Supreme Lord, because they're not experiencing bliss of the devotion service. That's why they sometimes fall down and come back to earth, like that is described. Sorry. Now, 270 verse. So, Sarvabhattacharya is concluding some more, is describing some more. Even though pure devotee is offered all kinds of liberation, he does not accept them. Why? He's already fully satisfied, engaged in the service of the Lord. Whether it's this planet, that planet, or spiritual planet, even pure devotee even doesn't care where he stays. As long as he's able to serve Supreme Lord, that's all it matters for him. So, such selfless attitude they have. So now 271, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu now replies back. So remember, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, why are you changing from Mukti Pada to Bhakti Pada? Then he is describing that Mukti, we cannot even hear the word Mukti. It's fearful, it's hatred. People don't even like Mukti word like that. So that's why it should be changed to Bhakti. Like that he described, right, so far, in essence. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replies, actually, your understanding of Mukti is one. But there's another understanding of the Mukti Pada also. What is that understanding? First is it directly refers to Supreme Lord himself. That can also be called as Mukti Pada. How? Because all kinds of liberation or Mukti exist under the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. That's why it's called Mukti Pada. That means everything is under him. That's one meaning. Another meaning is Mukti is the ninth subject and Supreme Person of God is shelter of liberation. Because Supreme Lord is a shelter of liberation, that's why it's also called Mukti Pada, like that is describing. What is this ninth subject? And purport is describing that ninth canto of Srimad describes about liberation. As 10th canto liberation describes about shelter or ashraya, or Supreme Lord Krishna himself. So that's why, because Krishna is a giver of the mukti or liberation or bliss, transcendental bliss to devotee, that's why he's also called as Mukti Pada, like that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is discussing. So now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, since I can understand Krishna according to these two meanings, that means I'm not understanding the other meaning that you're talking about. Mukti means merging into Brahman reflections like that. So then what is the point of changing the verse? Sarvam Bhattacharya replied that I was not able to give that reading of the verse. That means he is accepting that I did not understand that meaning of the verse, like that is saying. And then he says, although your explanation is correct, it should not be used. Because there is ambiguity in the word Muktipada, he is saying. That means somebody can think Muktipada means not Krishna, but it means merging into Brahman effulgence, he is saying. And to support that, he is saying the word Mukti refers to 5 kinds of liberation. But its direct meaning usually conveys the idea of becoming one with the Lord. That is the general meaning everybody will take, is saying. And then he's saying the Mukti word immediately induces hate and fear. But when we say the word Bhakti, we naturally feel transcendental bliss within the mind, is saying. So this is the, remember Sarvam Bhattacharya was impersonalist before. Now he became such a great devotee that he cannot even hear the word Mukti. Otherwise their goal is Mukti for them. He wants to hear only Bhakti, like that. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard this explanation, he began to laugh. And with great pleasure, he immediately embraced Sarvam Bhattacharya very firmly, it seems. Why? He's saying, because he had, that person, Sarvam Bhattacharya, was accustomed to reading and teaching Mayavada philosophy all this time. Now, such a person who was teaching Mayavada philosophy all the time is now hating the word Mukti itself. And how is this possible? This is possible only by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is writing for us. So now, Sri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami turns to glorification of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That how he was able to turn somebody Mayavadi to nice devotee like that. Pure devotee, not even simple devotee. He says, generally, if somebody sees a stone, unless they see that this can turn into iron into gold by touching, then they can understand, wow, this is not an ordinary stone, this is a touchstone. Similarly, if you see somebody sees Sarvam Bhattacharya transforming from Mayavadi to pure devotee, then they can understand, oh, this Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not ordinary, he is Krishna himself, son of Nanda Maharaj, like that. He's comparing the analogy with touchstone. And the transformation of iron to gold is like Sarvam Bhattacharya transforming from Mayavadi to pure devotee. Like that is describing. Now, after this incident, several inhabitants of Jagannath Puri, including Kashi Mishra, they came to take shelter of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's lotus feet, it seems. And then Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing that is going to tell more about how all Sarvam Bhattacharya served Lord Chaitanya, like that he will tell you later on. And then he also tell us the pastime how Sarvam Bhattacharya invited Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to his home and gave him alms, that means gave him food to eat, like that. He'll describe that pastime in detail later on, it seems, coming up. Now, this is the Falashruti for this chapter. If we hear with faith and love, these pastimes between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvam Bhattacharya, that we are freed from karma and gnana, and we attain the shelter of Lord Chaitanya's lotus feet. Now, this is how he concludes always, praying to his spiritual masters, Sri Rupa Goswami, Raghunathas Goswami, always desiring mercy. I narrate Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita following in their footsteps. That's how he closing the chapter. So just to summarize, we heard how Sarvam Bhattacharya got transformed into a pure devotee from Mayavadi by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy to see this transformation going on. And that's why he's appreciating him. And Sarvam Bhattacharya continued to serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu all the time with full devotion and chanting his holy names also like that. So that's the main essence for today's section. And also, of course, another essence is that as devotees, we don't aspire for liberation. We don't aspire to, the highest standard is for us to aspire towards serving the Supreme Lord like that all the time. That's the highest aspiration we can cultivate. Slowly and gradually we can cultivate. Yeah, we'll pause there. This ends actually another volume of Madhya Lila. The first volume of Madhya Lila. We'll go to the second volume next time. So we'll go. Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It's offer obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Ancha kalpatarubheshya kupasindubhyevacha paditana pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Thank you so much, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.